Hey there everyone, this is Josh from Nerf Herders Assemble. I wanted to start off this video with this kind of setup because really this is the only way I've been able to connect with people over the past month and a half, 2 months. Just like everybody else, I've been working from home and we've been social distancing, so if I want to connect with coworkers or friends, it's been through, Zoom or GoToMeeting. So I thought it'd be a fun way to show you my crappy webcam and, what I've been forced to work with lately. I've been working so much from home lately that by the end of the day, I'm exhausted and I want to just go downstairs and binge something. That's either with my wife or it's by myself. And if you've been listening to the Nerf Herders Assemble podcast, the NAP, then you know I've been watching a lot of Clone Wars lately. But I've also been trying to watch something else, which is expanding my anime palette. Would you guys calm down? My dogs are underneath here and they're just snoring like crazy. I've been trying to expand my anime palette. I've really not watched a lot of anime in my life. I've watched a lot of cartoons. I have a large bank of cartoons that I just love, but I never watched the anime stuff whenever I had the chance. I never really got into Toonami. I never stuck around for that kind of stuff. And I also didn't have cable growing up, so if it wasn't on the main channels, the likelihood that I was going to see it was slim. So I've wanted to get into that. I've wanted to test myself, and the first one that I wanted to watch as far as an anime film was Akira, because that is actually something I saw a little bit of when I was a kid, and I remember I didn't like it. And I don't believe I've seen much of it because I can really only remember the bike chase scene in the beginning, and I don't know anything outside of that. And I know that I was too young to understand it, and I probably wasn't taking it in, and I don't even know if I saw it dubbed or subbed or whatever. All I know is that I was too young to understand it, and I really didn't like it. So I want to give that another shot. I know it's an iconic, legendary anime film, and it's the inspiration for a lot of modern sci-fi. So I really want to give that a shot and start this I don't know anything about sci-fi segment with that. So I'm going to go downstairs, I'm going to watch it, I'm going to try to film the video of me watching it. I don't know how well it's going to turn out. I don't have that great of a setup here at home, but we're going to try it, and if it's salvageable, I'll use it, and you'll see it here in a second. I probably will watch most of the anime that I watch dubbed, just because I don't really care. It's cartoon mouths, so any language doesn't really match up. But I am gonna watch Akira subbed, just because I heard that's the best way to watch that. So that's the plan, and I'll see you in a second. Okay, so this is the 30th anniversary Blu-ray. Really, Darcy? Really? You gotta fart immediately? What the heck? Gee. 1988, July 16th, Tokyo. Hmm. 31 years after World War III. In 2019. It's 2019. So this happened last year. That's a crater. Akira. Love that. It's very Blade Runner-ish. Granted, this probably came out before Blade Runner. See, this is okay. So I remember this scene when I was young, and at first I wasn't connecting the dots. This was like a rival bike gang that was causing problems, and I thought like all these kids were like the same, on the same team, and they were all just like messing up, just like civilians' cars and everything. And I was like, why these guys are like the good guys, the protagonists or whatever? And I was so confused as a kid. I love that the breathing soundtrack. It's fantastic. He got it with his shoulder. Oh, oh. Old style bike versus new style bike. Who's gonna flinch? Oh, they just drove by each other. There's that iconic shot. How many times has that been redone? That kid. That's great. It's great animation. I love it. Ooh. Ooh. Who is it? Did you guys like it? Were you even paying attention, Oliver? Darcy? Were you watching it? Well, you were tired. Okay, well, I watched the film. I'm sorry there's not a lot of footage, especially of the the middle and the later half of the film. The camera setup that I had wasn't working, and of course the camera, I hope it's not doing it now, but kept on refocusing on me. So half of the footage that I did have was blurry, and then it just wasn't working. Also, I don't have the greatest of cameras, so power supply wasn't that great. But anyway, enough complaints about that. I really loved the movie. I understand why I didn't understand it as a kid. It's a very complex film, and it's definitely not kid friendly. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a very mature themed film, but I really dug it. I believe I mentioned in the beginning that I thought this was very Blade Runner-esque, and that it probably inspired Blade Runner. That was incorrect. Blade Runner actually came a few years before this, so Blade Runner probably inspired this. But I did love the 2019 Tokyo. The animation was just, it was just amazing. You don't get animation like that anymore. Not to say that current animation isn't also impressive and takes a lot of talent, but it was really a sight to see. And I don't know how I'm going to be doing future viewings. In fact, I'll probably be doing it up here in the office on my computer and whatnot. But I'm glad I at least saw that one downstairs on the biggest screen I have, because it was brilliant and it was beautiful. Okay, so let's talk about the plot. I don't think I'm going to go into spoilers. I don't want to talk about the whole film, just in case someone watching this hasn't seen it. Then again, I don't really know the true audience for these segments. I don't know a lot about anime, but you probably do, and you're probably here to see me stumble over myself. But still, I won't go too deep into spoilers. But basically, the film starts off with this explosion in 1988 in Tokyo. And, it's very reminiscent of Hiroshima and whatnot. But from what we see, it's clearly not that. It's not something that dropped from the sky. It's something huge, and it just, you know, white obliterates everything. And then it fast forward to 2019, and there's just this giant dark crater where that explosion was. And after that, we see the title card. It's beautiful. And then we get introduced to this bike gang, this motorcycle gang. The main two characters, the leader is Canada, and he's got the really cool bike that you see on all the posters. And then his best friend is Tetsu, and he is, they have some backstory in the film that's really interesting, and he doesn't have as nice of a bike. But basically, they're hanging out, and they see that there's a rival clown gang that's in their territory, and they chase after him. And it's violent, it's fun, it's crazy. Tetsu kind of goes in front of the group to finish off this clown gang, and he gets his last hurrah and really gets this dude. But then right after he has his victory, he looks forward in the road, and there's somebody in the road, and he can't stop in time. And it looks like he's going to straight up hit this person, which is... he's small, he's dressed like a kid, he kind of acts like a kid, but he's looking old, he's got wrinkles and everything, so it's like you don't really know what the age of this person is. But the bike explodes, the explosion kind of goes around this person, this kid, this old person, this old kid, and Tetsu somehow survives. He gets thrown from the explosion, and the kid in the middle of the road's just fine. He clearly has some type of powers. So the bike gang shows up to see how their friend's doing, and at the same time this force shows up that's apparently been chasing the superpowered kid, and collects the kid and collects Tetsu as well. And earlier before this, interspliced with the bike chase, you did see somebody pulling that kid along. They were being chased. I don't know if he was trying to get the kid away from somewhere, but they were chasing this kid all throughout the beginning. The person that was taking care of him, they accidentally kind of runs into the middle of this protest, and there's a lot of cops there, and he's got a gun, and he's been using it on all the people that's been chasing him, and the police see it, and they're like, put down your gun. And he doesn't, and they shoot him up. I mean, they just obliterate him. And the kid freaks out that his caretaker, or whoever the guy was, is killed. And the kid screams, and just like the buildings and the ground and everything around just goes crazy. He shatters all the glass. The ground comes up. It's just, he clearly has some tremendous power. So we already see that, but then we see the bike explode around him, and he's perfectly fine. And whatever the agency that was chasing him grabs him up, and grabs up the Tetsu as well. So the bike gang has no idea who they are or why they're taking him away, and they're kind of left on the scene with the cops. So basically, fast forward, and this is the one thing I wasn't sure about, and I guess I could look it up, but I'm trying not to do that. I'm trying not to, you know, find all the answers online so that I can act like I know more than I know about this film. But basically, the organization that has the superpowered kid, they also have some other ones as well. And I couldn't tell if they were running tests on Tetsu to try to also give him superpowers, or if he already had superpowers that were somehow awakened by the crash. But whatever the case is, he starts developing his superpowers really quick. And there's a creepy scene where he's in this this room that they have him set up in, and his toys start coming alive. And at first it's kind of cute, but then they just start morphing, and it's creepy, and they're trying to kill him. And it was really eerie. I mean, the visuals in this film is just, It's just incredible. I love it so much. So he breaks out and he does some damage and he messes some people up. But he breaks out and he shows up out on the street and steals Canada's bike. And then Canada and them, you know, meet up with him and you know, they're like, what the hell, where you been, man? And he starts having a mental breakdown there on the street. And again, the visuals are just like shocking. Like, they're so mature and so trippy. I mean, there's one point where he thinks he's falling. There's another point where the earth comes out from underneath him. There's another point where his insides just hit the ground beneath him, you know, like they've just, you know, like his whole body's just opened up. And it's all in his head. It's like he's having a really super bad trip, you know, but he's not on drugs. He's whatever his powers are awakening. And again, this is why I don't know if this is something he already had and then now they're, you know, they're finally flourishing, or if this is something they gave him. But he starts freaking out, and the agency shows up again and kind of takes him back. And so the superpowered kids they already had, they kind of have this relationship with them, and they're kind of like, they're not prisoners, but they are prisoners, but they're not prisoners. That was kind of a weird relationship. They've got this giant like playroom. Anyway, the superpowered kids are afraid that Tetsu is going to be the next Akira. And at first, when they start mentioning Akira, they you know, you think it's referring to the event. It's the explosion that happened in 1988. And you don't know if that was a program, if that was a bomb, or if that was a person. But then eventually they keep on referring to Akira like it's a person that they have trapped underground in this facility where the crater is. And so eventually Tetsu wants to know who this Akira is and why they're afraid that he's going to become the next Akira, or he's going to, you know, be at the same level as Akira. And the more he wants to know, the more powerful it becomes, the more people try to restrict him. And even when his friends intervene, he just goes berserk. And you know, it's the story of the person that didn't have a lot of power, that didn't have a lot of influence, that didn't have a lot of strength, and now they have an abundance of it. And it goes to his head, and it goes, it overtakes him. And he goes mad, and he goes crazy, and shit goes down. And I'll leave it at that, but the last act of the film is so bizarre and so crazy and so violent. And you feel for his friends who are having to deal with this. They don't really understand what's going on with him. You feel for him, even though he's become this super violent, super murderous person, because he still doesn't really understand what's going on with him. And you know, and then it's basically a showdown between the best friends, Canada and Tetsu. And yeah, it's really visually trippy and pleasing and shocking, and just, I was awestruck the entire time. And you know, I've heard over the years, over the decades, of people wanting to adapt this film. I think Jordan Peele was attached to it at some point. And you know, I'm always cool with that. I always, you know, there's a lot of things that I want to see a live action version of, you know, like Batman Beyond or something like that. A lot of animated things. This is just so bizarre that I don't know how they would do it, you know? And this was already an undertaking, because the creator of this is the creator of the manga. And the manga goes so far past this, apparently. And I haven't read the manga, but it was cool to hear that the guy that wrote that and created that wrote and created this movie. So, I mean, if anything, we can be happy that he was the one that put this movie together. So, you know, again, I haven't read it, so I don't know what they had to cut or what's still left in the manga. Apparently it's a lot, because the manga, I ended up getting it. I actually have it here. There's like 6 books that I plan to read now, but there's so much. And so I imagine there's a lot more post this movie, especially how the movie ends. It seems like there's, you know, there's more. But it was cool to see that the creator was able to create the movie as well. Oh yeah, the only other thing I had to say about it was that the soundtrack was astounding. There was a certain track that came up a few times that was like breathing, like heavy breathing and different kinds of breathing in the song itself, and it was really like unnerving and yet alluring at the same time. It was really cool. It kind of reminded me of what they're doing with Doom Eternal. If you've seen kind of the behind the scenes videos of that, they've got like a metal singer choir that they put together to do a lot of the sounds and do a lot of the songs. It's almost like a Viking song, but it's not, but it's like heavy metal, crazy satanic choir stuff, and it just looks cool. And I'm so mad that they delayed it on Switch and I have to wait to play it, but it reminded me of that. It was very, very organic kind of vocals put into a song, and that was really cool. So I really, really like this film. I totally understand why I didn't like it as a kid, and you know, I had a great time with it. I didn't mind that it was subbed. Again, I don't mind subs, but I have a problem with, like, I can't watch a movie if the sound is slightly off because I notice it. And sometimes I'm the only one in the room that notices it. But if the mouth is moving differently than the sound, then it annoys the crap out of me. But for the most part, animation isn't that sophisticated, that different. You know, that as long as it's good voiceover, the different languages, they all kind of track the same as far as visually. And, you know, I think most of my live action films, I prefer to see it in their original form and dubbed. But as far as animation, I don't know why I feel differently about that. But hey, if there's a movie that I'm about to watch that I share out and you guys are like, you need to see the dubbed version, let me know, or you need to see the sub version, let me know, and I'll, you know, include that. I've got a list of other ones that I want to see soon, and I don't know how often I'm going to be able to do this, but I'm going to try to churn them out. But I think this is fun. So I'm Josh. I don't know anime. And I'm trying to learn, and I'm trying to take it all in, and I'm so glad I started it with Akira. I really, really, really appreciated it, and I can't wait to read the manga next. So, thanks for joining me.